The exploration vessel Horizon hovered above the blue-green planet of Nice-4. Captain Juan Park stood at the command center, her eyes fixed on the main screen showing alien structures below. This was humanity's first contact with the Vathrians, a species unknown until 3 weeks ago when the Horizon detected their radio signals. "Landing team ready, Captain," reported Commander Minnow, standing beside her with tablet in hand. Captain Park nodded. "Let's make history then." The landing shuttle descended through wispy clouds toward a clearing near what appeared to be a settlement. Dr. Do-Hyun Kim, the team's xenoanthropologist, checked his equipment one final time. His job was to observe and document this momentous meeting between species. "Remember," Captain Park addressed the 6-person landing team, "we follow first contact protocols. No sudden movements. Universal translator ready. Let them set the pace." The shuttle settled on soft grass with a gentle hum. Through the viewport, they could see figures gathering at the edge of the clearing. Tall, slender beings with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. They wore simple cloth garments that resembled long skirts or robes. "They look almost human," whispered Dunji, the team's biologist. "Bipedal, similar proportions. Convergent evolution," Dr. Kim replied. "But don't let appearances fool you. Their biology and culture will be entirely different from ours." Captain Park activated the exit ramp. "Let's meet our neighbors." The humans stepped out into the warm air of Nice-4. Captain Park led with Dr. Kim and Lieutenant Sunwoo close behind. The Vathrians had formed a small group about 20 meters away. One Vathrian, taller than the others and wearing decorative bands on their arms, stepped forward. "That must be their leader," murmured Dr. Kim. The humans walked slowly forward, stopping 10 meters from the aliens. Captain Park raised her empty hands in the universal gesture of peace. "We come in friendship," she said, the translator converting her words into the series of whistles and clicks they had decoded from Vathrian communications. The tall Vathrian responded with sounds that the translator processed. "Welcome to our world. We are the Vathrians of Nice-4." Captain Park smiled and prepared to introduce her team when something unexpected happened. The Vathrian leader and all those behind suddenly grasped the lower portions of their garments and lifted them up to knee level, exposing 4-jointed legs covered in fine scales. The humans froze, unsure how to respond. Captain Park maintained her composed expression despite her confusion. Dr. Kim whispered urgently, "It must be a greeting ritual, some form of cultural display." The Vathrians held their position, skirts lifted, seemingly waiting. When the humans made no move to reciprocate, the aliens began to make soft trilling sounds to each other. "I think they expect us to do the same," Lieutenant Sunwoo said quietly. Captain Park hesitated. "We're wearing uniforms, not skirts. Should we roll up our pant legs?" The Vathrian leader lowered their garment and stepped closer. "Do you not reveal yourselves in greeting?" The translator converted. "We have different customs," Captain Park replied carefully. "We show our hands to demonstrate we carry no weapons." She raised her empty palms again. The Vathrians looked at each other, making more trilling sounds. Their leader seemed confused, perhaps even concerned. Dr. Kim whispered to Captain Park, "This could be important. In many cultures, greeting rituals establish trust. By not participating, we might be sending the wrong message." Captain Park made a quick decision. She bent down and rolled up her uniform pant legs to her knees. After a moment's hesitation, the rest of the team followed her example. The effect was immediate. The Vathrians' postures relaxed, and their leader made a sound the translator identified as satisfaction or approval. "We accept your modified greeting," the Vathrian leader said. "I am Elder Tak. We have waited many cycles for others to find us." As the initial tension dissolved, the two groups moved closer. Elder Tak invited them toward the settlement, a collection of dome-shaped buildings with spiraling patterns. Walking beside Dr. Kim, Captain Park kept her voice low. "What was that about?" Why show their legs as a greeting? A young Vathrian child approached them curiously and performed a greeting. The humans responded in kind, and the child made a musical sound of delight. The teacher says the child is impressed by how quickly we learn. The translator conveyed. Most aliens struggle with proper greeting form. We're not the first visitors, Dr. Kim asked with surprise. The teacher explained that traders from 2 other star systems occasionally visited Nice 4, but relations remained formal because these other species refused to adopt proper greeting customs. Back on the Horizon asterisk, this new information caused excitement. So we're not their first contact, Captain Park noted. But we might be the first to fully embrace their cultural practices, which gives us a diplomatic advantage, Commander Minho added. Dr. Kim spent that night reviewing historical artwork provided by the Vathrians. Ancient cave paintings showed figures with lifted garments facing enemies whose legs remained covered. Look at this, he told Lee the next morning. Their oldest wars began with covered legs, a sign of hidden weapons and bad intentions. The greeting isn't just polite, it prevented conflict. When they shared this revelation with Elder Talk, the Vathrian leader seemed pleased. Your understanding grows. When legs are hidden, trust cannot bloom. The research team created a comprehensive guide for future human visitors. It included proper skirt designs, lifting techniques, and the cultural significance behind each variation. Remember, Dr. Kim told the crew, what seems strange to us is the foundation of their society. Their ancestors survived by proving they carried no hidden threats. During their final evening on the planet, the Vathrians held a special ceremony. Each human performed the greeting perfectly, holding the position for the full 12 seconds of highest respect. Elder Talk then surprised them by extending a hand, a human handshake they had obviously studied. We learn your ways as you learn ours, Elder Talk announced. This is how different peoples become friends. As they prepared to return to the Horizon asterisk, Dr. Kim felt proud of their progress. What had initially seemed like an odd custom now made perfect sense, a beautiful example of how different evolutionary paths could lead to similar concepts of peace, just expressed through different customs. Next challenge, Captain Park said with a smile as they boarded the shuttle, explaining handshakes to the Admiral when he arrives tomorrow. The diplomatic shuttle from Earth Command broke through the cloud cover of Nice 4, its silver hull gleaming in the planet's morning light. Captain Juan Park stood at the landing pad with Dr. Kim and Taejin Lee, all wearing the ceremonial skirts they now used for Vathrian interactions. Admiral Han isn't known for cultural flexibility, Dr. Kim said quietly as they watched the shuttle descend. Captain Park nodded. I sent him all our research and protocols. Let's hope he read them. The shuttle touched down with a soft hiss. The door slid open to reveal Admiral Jin Han, a stern man with close-cropped gray hair and a decorated uniform. Behind him stood 4 security officers, all in standard Earth Command pants and jackets. Captain Park, the Admiral said with a curt nod. His eyes moved to their skirts with poorly hidden disapproval. Interesting uniform modification. Welcome to Nice 4, Admiral, Captain Park replied. We've adopted local customs to build trust with the Vathrians. Your team should change before the meeting. Admiral Han frowned. My officers will remain in proper uniform. We represent Earth Command, not a cultural exchange program. Dr. Kim stepped forward. Sir, with respect, the skirt-lifting greeting is essential to Vathrian diplomacy. Without it, I read your reports, Doctor. The Admiral cut him off. Primitive customs are interesting to study, but we're here to negotiate mining rights, not participate in tribal rituals. Captain Park tried again. The mining negotiations are critical, which is why proper protocol. Let's get this over with, Admiral Han interrupted, walking past them toward the path to the Vathrian settlement. Captain Park exchanged worried glances with her team as they followed. She tapped her communicator, whispering to Commander Minho on the Horizon asterisk. Potential diplomatic situation developing. Stand by. At the edge of the settlement, Elder Talk and 5 Vathrian officials waited in ceremonial attire. Their garments were more elaborate than usual, with intricate patterns woven into the fabric. Captain Park led the approach, and when they reached appropriate distance, she and her team performed the greeting perfectly, lifting their skirts and holding position for the full 12 seconds of highest respect. Elder Talk and the officials responded in kind, before turning expectantly to Admiral Han and his officers. The Admiral simply stood there, hands clasped behind his back. "I am Admiral Jin Han of Earth Command. I'm here to finalize our resource-sharing agreement." The translator conveyed his words, but the Vathrians remained in their greeting position, clearly waiting. After several uncomfortable seconds, they slowly lowered their garments. Elder Talk made a sharp trilling sound that the translator didn't catch. "Is something wrong?" Admiral Han asked, impatience clear in his voice. Dr. Kim stepped closer to Elder Talk, performing the greeting again. "Elder Talk, please understand that Admiral Han has different customs." The Vathrian leader's large eyes narrowed. "Those who hide their weapons cannot be trusted with our world's treasures." The translator relayed this to everyone. Admiral Han's face flushed with anger. "Weapons? This is absurd. We came to negotiate in good faith." Elder Talk turned to the other Vathrians and made a series of clicks and whistles too rapid for the translator. Immediately, several Vathrians moved toward the village center, while others positioned themselves between the humans and the settlement. "What's happening?" Admiral Han demanded. Dr. Kim's face had gone pale. "They think you're preparing to attack. In their history, refusing to show your legs means you're hiding weapons and intend harm." "That's ridiculous," the Admiral scoffed. "I'm not lifting my uniform for anyone." Captain Park stepped between them. "Admiral, this isn't about dignity. It's about avoiding a diplomatic disaster." Too late. Alarm sounds began echoing through the village. More Vathrians appeared, some carrying staff-like objects that hummed with energy. "Security stance," Admiral Han ordered his officers, who immediately moved into defensive positions. "No," Captain Park shouted. "Stand down immediately." Elder Talk raised a hand, and the Vathrians paused. "Captain Park, remove your threatening delegation from our land. The talks are ended." Captain Park turned desperately to Dr. Kim. "How do we fix this?" Dr. Kim thought quickly. "Ask for time to explain our customs properly. Cultural misunderstanding, not hostile intent." Captain Park approached Elder Talk, again performing the greeting ritual. "Elder Talk, I beg forgiveness for this misunderstanding. Admiral Han doesn't understand the deep meaning of your greeting. Understanding was your responsibility." Elder Talk replied coldly. "We allowed your people time to learn our ways." Meanwhile, Admiral Han was calling the shuttle for immediate extraction. "This mission is compromised. We're leaving." "You can't." Taejin Lee protested. 3 weeks of diplomacy will be destroyed." Dr. Kim suddenly stepped forward. "Elder Talk, may I show you something important about human customs?" His voice was urgent but respectful. The Vathrian leader hesitated, then nodded once. Dr. Kim approached Admiral Han. "Sir, humans shake hands to show peaceful intentions. Like the Vathrians, we developed ways to prove we carry no weapons. Different methods, same purpose." He demonstrated a handshake with Taejin Lee, explaining each part. "Open hand, exposed palm, gentle grip, showing we hold no weapons and mean no harm." Elder Talk watched with interest. Dr. Kim continued. "Admiral Han's reluctance isn't hostility, it's misunderstanding. In his culture, maintaining proper uniform is respectful." The tension in the air lessened slightly. Elder Talk made a thoughtful sound. "Nevertheless," the Vathrian leader finally said, "our customs on our world must be honored. If Admiral Han wishes to speak of mining rights, he must show peaceful intent our way." Admiral Han shook his head firmly. "This meeting is over. Captain Park, your team has gone native. Report back to the ship immediately." As the Admiral turned to leave, Captain Park faced a critical decision. Follow orders and lose all progress with the Vathrians, or defy her superior to save the mission. She looked at Dr. Kim, who nodded slightly. She understood what needed to be done. "Admiral Han," she called, her voice steady with resolve. "I respectfully request you reconsider. The future relationship between our species depends on what happens in the next few minutes." The Admiral paused, looking back at the tense scene. Vathrians with weapons ready, his officers on alert, and Captain Park standing between them in a ceremonial skirt, trying to prevent a first-contact disaster. Admiral Han stood rigid, his face a mask of authority and disapproval. The standoff between humans and Vathrians had reached a dangerous point. Captain Park took a deep breath and made her decision. "Admiral, with respect, I need to demonstrate something," she said firmly. Before he could object, she walked deliberately toward Elder Talk and performed the Vathrian greeting perfectly, lifting her ceremonial skirt for the full 12 seconds. Then, still holding Elder Talk's gaze, she extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. This is how humans show peaceful intentions. We offer our hand, exposing our palm where weapons could be hidden. Elder Talk studied her hand with curiosity. After a moment's hesitation, the Vathrian leader reached out and mimicked the handshake, their four-fingered hand wrapping gently around Captain Park's. "Two ways to show the same truth," Captain Park said clearly. "Different methods, same meaning." The translator conveyed her words, and Elder Talk made a musical sound that the humans had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. "Captain Park." Admiral Han's voice cut through the moment. "You are directly disobeying my order to return to the ship." She turned to face him. "Sir, with all due respect, I'm saving our mission. The Vathrians don't want our weapons or our technology. They want our respect." Dr. Kim stepped forward. "Admiral, in their entire history, only those planning violence refuse to show their legs are weapon-free. By rejecting their greeting, you accidentally signaled hostile intent." Admiral Han's security team shifted uncomfortably, caught between their duty to the Admiral and the obvious tension their presence was creating. Elder Talk spoke again, the translator converting the complex whistles. "Your captain understands. She bridges the gap between our peoples." The Vathrian gestured toward Admiral Han. "Does this one truly speak for your world? Does he bring peace or demands?" All eyes turned to Admiral Han. Captain Park could see him processing the situation, his military training conflicting with the diplomatic reality before him. Finally, he sighed. "I've commanded starships through Centauri space and negotiated with the Protean Alliance. I never had to." He glanced down at his uniform pants. Captain Park spoke quietly. "Sir, sometimes the bravest action is setting aside our own customs to honor those of others." A long silence followed. Then, to everyone's surprise, Admiral Han removed his uniform jacket and handed it to a security officer. "I assume someone has an extra skirt." 15 minutes later, Admiral Han stood before the Vathrian Council in a ceremonial skirt, his face a mixture of discomfort and determination. When Elder Talk approached, the Admiral performed a slightly stiff but technically correct greeting, lifting the fabric to expose his legs. Elder Talk responded in kind, then extended a hand for a human handshake. The Admiral's eyebrows rose in surprise, but he clasped the Vathrian's hand firmly. "Your captain taught us your peaceful gesture," Elder Talk explained. "If you honor our ways, we will honor yours." The atmosphere transformed. What had been a potential diplomatic disaster became something unexpected. A genuine exchange of cultural understanding. Inside the council chamber, the mining rights discussion proceeded smoothly. Admiral Han, having crossed the cultural divide, proved to be a skilled negotiator. The Vathrians, impressed by his eventual willingness to adapt, offered more generous terms than expected. During a break in the talks, Dr. Kim found Captain Park watching from a distance as Admiral Han and Elder Talk examined a holographic map together. You took a huge risk defying him, Dr. Kim said quietly. Captain Park nodded. Sometimes you have to follow a different kind of order, the one that builds bridges instead of walls. Look at them now. Tej and Lee joined them, gesturing toward Admiral Han. The stern military man was actually smiling as he discussed mineral deposits with Elder Talk. He's even getting comfortable in the skirt. Later that evening, the humans and Vathrians gathered for a celebration meal. The tension of the morning seemed like a distant memory as they shared food and stories. Admiral Han found himself seated beside Elder Talk. I must admit, he said, adjusting his ceremonial skirt, this is more comfortable than it looks. Elder Talk made a sound the translator identified as laughter. Your stiff leg coverings seem equally strange to us. How do you move properly? Tradition, the Admiral replied. Like your greeting, our uniforms have meaning beyond practical use. Elder Talk nodded. Yet you set aside your tradition to honor ours. This is why we will sign the agreement tomorrow. The Admiral looked surprised. I thought we were still negotiating terms. The terms matter less than knowing our partners will respect our ways. Elder Talk replied. Captain Park showed us humans can adapt. You proved her right. Across the room, Captain Park watched the friendly conversation between the two leaders with relief. Dr. Kim approached with 2 cups of Vathrian fruit juice. It worked out well, he said, handing her a cup. But what will happen when you return to Earth Command? Disobeying a direct order has consequences. Captain Park sipped the sweet juice. Worth it. Look around, humans and Vathrians sharing a meal as friends instead of pointing weapons at each other. As the celebration continued, Admiral Han surprised everyone by standing and addressing the gathering. He performed a perfect Vathrian greeting, followed by raising his cup in a human toast. To new friends and new understanding, he said, may we always find ways to bridge our differences. Elder Talk rose and extended a hand for a handshake, which the Admiral accepted with genuine warmth. Captain Park smiled. Sometimes the greatest victories came not from standing firm, but from being willing to lift your skirt and extend your hand. 6 months had passed since the tense standoff on Nice 4. Captain Juwon Park stood at attention in the Grand Hall of Earth Command Headquarters, watching as delegates from 12 species gathered for the opening ceremony of the Interspecies Cultural Exchange Program. The program had been her idea, born from the near disaster and surprising breakthrough with the Vathrians. Nervous? Asked Dr. Do-Yeon Kim, now wearing the formal uniform of a diplomatic advisor rather than his usual researcher attire. A little, she admitted. I never expected a simple skirt-lifting ritual would lead to all this. The hall was decorated with symbols from all member species. Most prominent was the new unified greeting protocol emblem, a circle containing both raised hands and exposed legs, representing the blended greeting rituals now used in official ceremonies. Admiral Han approached them, his posture as rigid as ever, but his expression considerably warmer than during their first meeting on Nice 4. Captain Park, Dr. Kim, he nodded. The Vathrian delegation has arrived. Elder Talk specifically asked for you both to join the welcome party. They followed Admiral Han to the reception area where Elder Talk and 5 other Vathrians waited. The aliens wore modified ceremonial garments, traditional skirts, but with added Earth Command insignia woven into the fabric. Captain Park performed the new protocol greeting, a brief skirt lift followed by an extended hand. Elder Talk responded in kind, the movement now smooth and practiced after months of diplomatic exchanges. Captain Park, Elder Talk's voice came through the improved translator. It brings joy to see you in your home world. Your bravery that day changed the path of our peoples. The courage was mutual, she replied. Your willingness to understand our customs made everything possible. The delegates moved into the main hall where representatives from Earth and 11 other worlds had gathered. Some species were reptilian, others insectoid or avian, each with their own greeting customs that had been studied and incorporated into the new protocol system. Before we met the Vathrians, Dr. Kim whispered as they took their seats. We focused on language as the key to communication. Now we understand body language and cultural rituals are equally important. The ceremony began with Earth's Secretary General addressing the Assembly. 6 months ago, a diplomatic crisis became a breakthrough moment. Today, we formalize what began as an improvisation by one captain who understood that respect transcends discomfort. Captain Park felt her cheeks warm as many eyes turned toward her. The secretary continued. The Interspecies Cultural Exchange Program will ensure that all member species learn the essential customs of their galactic neighbors. No future diplomat will arrive unprepared for greeting rituals or cultural expectations. The audience applauded as a holographic display showed various greeting methods from different worlds: the Vathrian skirt lift, the human handshake, the Procyon head bow, the Centauri arm cross, and others. Each species has developed ways to signal peaceful intentions, explained the cultural program director. Our new unified greeting combines elements from all member species, allowing everyone to feel respected while maintaining their dignity. Elder Talk was invited to the podium next. The Vathrian leader moved with graceful confidence despite being on an alien world. When humans first came to Nice-4, we nearly lost a valuable friendship because of misunderstanding. Elder Talk began. In our history, those who hide their legs hide weapons and intentions. In human history, those who offer their hand open themselves to trust. The Vathrian demonstrated both gestures smoothly. Different paths, same destination. This is the foundation of true diplomacy. After the speeches came the formal presentation of honors. Captain Park was called forward, surprised to see Admiral Han and Elder Talk waiting together on the stage. Captain Juan Park announced the Secretary General. For exceptional cultural diplomacy and crisis prevention, you are awarded the first Joint Human-Vathrian Medal of Understanding. Elder Talk placed a beautiful medallion around her neck, half made from earth metals, half from Vathrian crystal. The design showed two figures greeting each other with both their cultural methods combined. Thank you, Captain Park said, genuinely moved. But the real breakthrough happened when Admiral Han set aside his discomfort for the greater good. Admiral Han actually smiled. Captain Park taught me the hardest lesson of my career. Sometimes protocol must bend so peace can flourish. Later, at the reception, Captain Park watched as diplomats from various worlds practiced each other's greeting customs. Humans awkwardly lifted borrowed ceremonial skirts, while Vathrians extended hands for shaking. Other species tried both with varying degrees of success. It looks almost comical. Tajin Lee commented, joining her with a drink. But it's working. Everyone's trying. That's all we can ask, she replied. Effort means respect. Dr. Kim approached with exciting news. The education program is expanding. Next month, I'll lead the first Cultural training for cadets. Your skirt incident is the opening case study. Captain Park laughed. Wonderful. My legacy will be lifting a skirt and defying an admiral. Your legacy, corrected Admiral Han, overhearing as he passed by, is teaching an old-fashioned admiral that tradition should guide us, not bind us. As the evening continued, Captain Park found a quiet moment with Elder Talk on a balcony overlooking the lights of the city. Your world is beautiful, the Vathrian said. Different from Nice-4, but beautiful. Will you stay for the full diplomatic exchange? She asked. Elder Talk made the musical sound of affirmation. I will learn all I can about Earth. Next year, you must visit Nice-4 again as our honored guest. Together, they watched shooting stars cross the night sky. Captain Park thought about how close they had come to conflict instead of friendship. One cultural misunderstanding had nearly caused disaster, but willingness to adapt had created something remarkable instead. To understanding, she said, raising her glass in a human toast. Elder Talk lifted the glass in one hand while slightly raising the ceremonial skirt with the other, the perfect blend of both worlds. To understanding, the Vathrian agreed. and to lifting skirts and extending hands across the stars.